Okay, this is a video to show you how to deal with a certain check engine light problem. In particular, I had a problem with the catalyst code. It's in the pandemic and the winter is just coming to a close, and I had been reluctant to bring my car in for inspection because of those factors, and I was about to bring it in this week. And a few days ago, my check engine light came on. So my car's out of inspection. It's a 2008. In Massachusetts, it has to be 15 years old for the check engine light to be on and still pass. So it's only 13 years old, so this check engine light is not going to work out. Now, it's a catalyst code. So here's one thing that you can do with the catalyst code. You could try clearing the codes. Now, clearing the codes does not make it ready for inspection, but here's a little tutorial on the catalyst code. On OBD2, it's known as a Type B non-continuous monitor. And when you reset the codes, the mill indicator is incomplete. The monitor is incomplete. The mill, or the malfunction indicator light, is off. Or the check engine light, CEL. I probably should have said CEL. Okay. The CEL is off, and there are no pending codes. Okay, but it's not ready for inspection because the monitor is incomplete. Now, if you run it, drive it, and if it's a drive cycle which qualifies for the catalyst monitor, then if you pass, then you fall into this category. The monitor is okay. The check engine light is off, and there are no pending codes. That's ready for inspection. Okay? Now, if it fails, it goes into the status where there is a pending code. The monitor is still incomplete. It's not ready for inspection. The check engine light is off. There's a pending code. There's no code. There's a pending code. So you might say there's a code. Some people call that a soft code, and that's a hard code. In this case, the code I'm talking about is p0420. It's the catalyst code. There is a p0420 as a pending code. So you might say there is a code, but check engine light is off. That's the important thing. Now, if it fails a second time, you're in trouble because the monitor is still incomplete and the check engine light is on. If it passes, you get out of jail and you go back to the monitor okay. So a pending code can be cleared if it's followed by a pass. If it's followed by a fail, you get into this problem. The monitor is incomplete, the check engine light is on. The code is set as a pending code. I'm sorry, as a code, or what you might call a hard code. At this point, whether or not there's still a pending code is almost irrelevant since the code has been set and it's not ready for inspection and the check engine light is on. In order to get out of jail now requires 3 successive passes. Pass, pass, pass. If you don't get 3 successive passes, you're back in the same boat. If you get 3 successive passes, then you're okay. And it's ready for inspection. And there are no pending codes. Now, if there are no pending codes, I'm not 100% sure on that because I've never actually gone through all this. But this is what I read. This is known as 2 to fail, 2 to set, 3 to clear. Okay? It makes it harder to clear it. Okay? Now, if you have been driving your car and you are in this situation where your check engine light comes on, and let's assume that it's a catalyst code, and let's assume that your catalyst is marginal. In other words, it may say it's 50-50, and 50% of the time on a particular drive cycle that qualifies for catalysts, such as highway driving, if it's got a 50% chance of failing, you've only got a 1 out of 8 chance, basically, of getting this thing to pass. Now, on the other hand, if you reset your codes, you've got a 50% chance of getting this thing ready. So this is the reason why generally speaking, if you're just trying to get something ready for inspection on a particular code and you believe that the code is not a fluke, in other words, there is a problem, resetting the code is not resetting codes is not a terrible idea. Okay, it can get you there. Now, let me explain what happened in my case. I did reset the codes. I reset the codes, and then I took a short drive just down to the center of town. My objective was to stay off the highway. The reason is because the highway driving is what sets the catalyst code, and I wanted to avoid that since that was the one that had failed, p0420. Oh, well, upon clearing the codes, I had 4 incomplete monitors. Upon driving down just to the center of my town, 3 or 4 miles, I came back and one of the monitors had cleared, so it was okay. I had 3 incomplete. They were the catalyst code, the evap code, and an oxygen sensor monitor. 3 monitors were incomplete. The next morning, using information I had seen off the internet, not necessarily for 2008, but for other model years, such as 2004, 2002, they suggested that there was such a thing as a drive cycle for the evap, where you could clear an evap code without taking the car in the road, keeping it in neutral, and simply increasing the RPMs to 3,000 for a certain period of time. You can check this if you want. Anyway, I tried it out just to see what would happen. And I did have a place to go anyway, so I did it for 5 minutes in my driveway or so. Before doing that, I went to my location. I actually went to get a COVID shot, a vaccine. And when I got there, even though I did no highway driving, when I got there, my cat code had been set. I don't know how that happened, but it did. So I immediately cleared the code. And then upon driving back, I actually stopped at the grocery store on the way back. When I went to the grocery store, I checked the codes at that point. No highway driving. And for whatever reason, the catalyst code actually came through as okay. This I have no explanation for. Because it's hard to find complete drive cycle information on the internet for a particular model year without having, let's say, the shop manual, which I don't have for this car, you never can be 100% sure what's going to set this thing. They may have a drive cycle in there, and that drive cycle might cause the monitor to run, but there are other activities that might cause the monitor to run. Anyway, well, all I can say is I was elated when I saw that the catalyst code had gone away and that the monitor had complete. Now, let me show you the status of this right now. So if I go to my vehicle diagnostics, and I take a look at my IM monitors, this is what I'm looking at. Okay, since the last been cleared. What I've got is my catalyst monitor is okay, just like I said. And my evap system is okay too, because I subsequently, although I didn't mention this, took this out for another ride, just around town, not on the highway. Tried to keep it below 25 to see if I could get the evap system, and it did. What I didn't get was oxygen sensor. I believe that might also require a highway situation, which I'm trying to avoid. Now, the thing about it is, if I go to the so-called state OBD check to give me the summary, what I find is that the malfunction indicator lamp is off. There are no codes. There are 6 monitors that are okay, and 1 monitor is incomplete. Now, in Massachusetts, it's okay to have 1 incomplete monitor. So just by resetting my codes, and even though I really didn't know what I was doing, I tried to get information, but I couldn't, I managed now to have this thing with 1 incomplete code. I believe I would probably need to get on the highway to clear that code, and I would risk, let's say, setting the catalyst code. Okay. Now, there are no pending codes. I didn't show that, but it just so happens that I have no pending codes. I've been off the highway since this whole thing, and there are no codes pending. There are no codes either, of course. If there were an actual code, I would have had the indicator lamp would be on. Okay, I'm not going to start the engine because I don't want to take any chances. I actually took this in for inspection in this condition, expecting, at least I'd get a fair inspection. I wouldn't get flunked right off the bat. And when I got to the inspection station, it was closed because of this ransomware attack on the DMV. I'm going to not drive this car until they're open for inspection again. I'm going to try bringing it in without driving on the highway. Everything here is completely legit. Nothing wrong with what I'm doing. I stay off the highway, and there's a good chance I might be able to get it not to run the catalyst monitor again, because it might fail if it runs again. Or the oxygen sensor monitor, I have no real fear for that because that's not the code that I got. I got a catalyst code. So I have a suspicion that I have something marginal in the catalyst monitor that could cause a failure under certain conditions. So I want to stay off the highway and try to keep this thing from triggering and going at a relatively low speed. So anyway, okay, that's a relatively longer version. I try to explain the Type B non-continuous OBD2, how you can use that to your advantage, how you can use something about the drive cycle to try to avoid it running, and taking advantage of the fact that in Massachusetts you can have one incomplete monitor. Okay, so that's all. Thanks.